Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about a super good-looking new drama. This recap mainly tells the story of the protagonist seeking revenge for his father. Boy opens a small pub in Itaewon, a famous commercial district in Seoul. He tries to fight against the Jenga group, the company of his enemy. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's watch the drama together. The story takes place 15 years ago, at Chongqing High School. Because of skipping evening self-study, Lu was punished by the teacher to kneel. The teacher used several people as negative examples to teach the students. Before he finished speaking, Lu poured the water in the bucket over his head. He asked the head teacher if he needed to do it again. The head teacher was also helpless against him. 3 years of high school. Seoro had no friends in the world. He didn't seem to care at all. Even though he was so unsociable, there was a girl who had a crush on him. She confessed her feelings when he was about to transfer schools. But our low-EQ Seoro, using the excuse of not liking sweets, rejected the girl's chocolate confession. The next day, Seoro went to take the police academy exam. He saw Hyoe shaking off Yisayo's hand. He quickly caught Yisayo, who had fallen to the ground. His knee slammed hard on the ground. Seoro pulled Hyoe back. He told her to apologize. Hyoe thought he was meddling. She turned and left, because his knee was injured. On the police physical fitness test, Seoro gritted his teeth and persevered. He barely passed the exam. On the other side, Kong, the managing director, came to find Seoro's father. He told him that Jang Family Group had announced they would no longer fund the orphanage he was responsible for. They would instead choose a more eye-catching nursing home. Seoro's father questioned who made the decision behind his back. He heard it was the chairman. Silence descended. He touched his watch, a gesture of helplessness. Then, Dad took him to the kindergarten. On the way, he told him, "You must get along well with your classmates. Don't be so stubborn. The president's son is also in your class." And so on and so forth. Coming to the childcare center, surprised to find Zui there, and seemed to be very familiar with Lao Duo. Hua was so low in emotional intelligence. Ignoring his father's greetings, he picked up the bucket and left. While hanging up clothes, Zui approached him to chat, saying that they were all from the same high school. "We see each other all the time. Besides, Lu and his father have been friends for 5 years. Give him some face. Be friends with him." Lu said, "I'd rather be a ghost. Sorry. This dress is so wet." Xioi threw away the dress. She turned and left. When leaving, Lao Duo apologized to Showa. His son doesn't understand social etiquette. Showa deeply agreed. The next day, Lu was on his way to the new school. It was a case of the enemy meets on a narrow road. He saw Showa waiting for the bus, too. At this time, a luxurious car stopped beside Zui. The president's son, Huang Mao, invited Zui to get in the car. She was ruthlessly refused. Seeing Zui board the bus, Lu chose to wait for the next one. It was not only a coincidence that he missed the bus. Lu was also arranged to sit at the same table as Zui when they were assigned to different tables. His bottom had not even warmed up the seat. When he saw Huang Mao bullying his classmates, the world stood up. But he was stopped by Showa. She reminded him that Huang Mao was the headmaster's son. If he interfered, he would also be implicated. Of course, this kind of reason couldn't persuade the righteous world. In the past, he stopped Huang Mao. This action shocked all the students. Huang Mao was unmoved. Keep bullying classmates. Even the teacher who just arrived in the classroom. Pretend not to see it. Let everyone have a good class. Seeing Wang Miao's arrogant look, Lu punched him. Lao Duo, who was diligently promoting Chongzhen Group, was called out by the secretary. The principal's office. Seoro, who was kneeling on the ground, was being beaten mercilessly by the teacher. The principal was comforting the yellow-haired boy next to him. At that moment, the president and old Du entered. The father apologized to the president. He guaranteed that he would discipline his child. The president gave Searo a choice. He had to kneel down and apologize to the yellow-haired boy, otherwise he would be expelled from school. Searo said that old Aro taught him that he should accept punishment for doing wrong, but also teach yourself to hold onto your beliefs in life. Classmates were bullied. Teachers condoned it. Of course, you have to stand up for them. Because you hit Huang Mao. You are wrong and deserve to be punished. But you can't apologize to Huang Mao, because you don't feel sorry at all. The president walked over, asked Dad how he felt about it. Dad replied, "I don't know how I could have such a son. He's just so cool, it's unbelievable. My son is acting according to his own beliefs. He's also willing to take responsibility. My father said he would fully support my son's decision." Finally, he resigned from his position as chairman. That night, the father and son went to a small restaurant. Father asked Searo to pour the wine. His family taught him the etiquette of drinking. He asked Searo what the first sip of wine tasted like. Searo replied that it was sweet. His father said it was because Searo impressed him today. As they drank, Searo cried and apologized to his father. He said he had caused his father trouble. His father comforted him. As time goes by, everything will pass. The focus is not on losing your job or dropping out of school. What matters is to hold fast to your beliefs in life. I didn't do it, but my son did. Dad is very proud. The world is walking its own path, practicing its own beliefs. The next day, 341 Huang Mao came to school in a sports car. 347 Xiaoxiao showed off his newly bought limited edition sports car to go. 341 and the license plate number is 772. Go didn't give him a good look. He turned and walked away. Shila's dad came to find Go, who was working part-time at a convenience store after school. He encouraged her to prepare well for the college entrance exam. Go resented his meddling. He was unemployed and secretly paid her registration fees. And there was his son, Shila's behavior. This means that both the father and son are nosy people. I will never be like them. Shoa took the bus to the college entrance exam. But she found that she didn't bring her admission ticket. She hurried back. She met Shirlu running. After asking, she learned that she had to get to the university within 20 minutes. Shirlu told her that she had to run at her pace to catch up. Under Shila's guidance, Shogo finally arrived at the university for the interview. After it was over, Shirlu discovered that she had been waiting for him. She asked him if his previous promise of being friends with him still stood. Shogo nodded and said of course it did. By the river, Shogo asked Shirlu why he wanted to be friends with her again. Shirlu said he understood why she lacked human warmth. Shogo turned her head curiously. Low EQ World Road actually responded. Because she has a twisted personality. This wave of operation is good. Finally, show off the goose phone. Praise her for being handsome. And also beautiful. Turn around and run away. The unemployed father is preparing to open a small restaurant. Father told Shirlu that his dream has always been to open a small store. Father resigned. Son dropped out of school. It's nothing. Life goes on. Pain will eventually be diluted by time. At night, Dad rode his motorcycle home from buying goods, looking at a family photo, dreaming of his own small shop. At this moment, a car hit the motorcycle from behind. Saru's father rolled down the slope. Saru, waiting for his father, ultimately did not wait for his father to return home. At the funeral, Saru stared blankly at his father's portrait, recalling the day he dropped out of school. Dad comforted himself. The first day of dropping out of school saved him money on school uniforms. Shogus came over to persuade Shirlu, who hadn't eaten in days, to eat something. At this time, Wu, the detective, came to investigate the case. He told Shirlu that the suspect had turned himself in. He requested a private settlement between the two parties. hearing that the other party wanted to use money to measure his father's life. He drove the other party away. Goose picked up the photo on the ground. It was discovered that the offending vehicle was the limited edition sports car that Huang Mao had been showing off to her. It was also a car with a license plate ending in 7. Huang Mao was careless and lost everything. At 2018, the evidence was left behind. Hearing this, Lu ran out. Yi went to stop her. Seeing Lu's hateful gaze, she stopped in her tracks. Lu found Huang Mao, who was leisurely smoking in the midst of a torrential downpour. He rushed toward him. He untied his tie and wrapped it around Huang Mao's neck. He punched him in the face. He grabbed Huang Mao's hair and demanded why he killed his father. Huang Mao kept apologizing, but the furious Lu continued to punch him in the face. He picked up a brick from the side of the road. He aimed it at the unconscious Huang Mao. He smashed down. On the other side, Xiao rushed to the hospital with police officer Wu. As Lu was smashing at the yellow-haired man, the arriving police officer Wu fired a shot into the air, stopping Lu. Lu turned around. Roared, "The yellow-haired man killed my so many." Xiao and the police officer persuaded him to calm down. "Put down the brick in your hand. The world seems hopeless. The only thought is to kill Huang Mao." Police officer Wu loads his gun. He prepares to shoot. Zui rushes forward and stands in front of the gun. She turns around and continues to persuade Lu. He doesn't want his son to sacrifice his entire life for revenge. He hears Zaiui's words. As Silu thought back to the first time he drank, he remembered his father's proud look at his determination. So he put down the stone in his hand. He knelt on the ground and cried uncontrollably. Huang Mao was sent to the hospital. Silu was taken away by the police car. And just like that, the funeral for Sila's father ended on this rainy night. The next day, on the hospital bed, Huang Mao recalled the night of the incident. He looked at his father, who was lying on the slope below. He took out his phone and intended to call an ambulance. But he found that his phone had been smashed. He could only helplessly pound on the engine hood. Northern Detention Center. The president came to see Lu. He got straight to the point. He mentioned Lu's unruly behavior at school. He couldn't help but want to help him correct it. Let him reflect on himself. Kneel down and apologize to his own son. Only then can he avoid the disaster of prison. Lu listened. His anger surged. He slammed his head against the protective window. He clenched his fists. The president would laugh at his so-called beliefs. Ambition is nothing more than the desire of those who have nothing to keep their self-respect. There's nothing to gain from being stubborn and impulsive. While mocking the world with his mouth, the chairman confessed to his secretary that he couldn't help but feel a certain sense of concern. Then, he asked about the secretary Suio's situation. The secretary assured him not to worry, saying she had already arranged for the gardener to take the blame for Huang Mao. However, the chairman insisted on seeing Suio. Knowing that Xiao was a child from an orphanage, the president decided to sponsor her tuition and living expenses. Xiao asked what the price was for the president's help. She guessed that the other party wanted her to say something unfavorable about Lu. The president said that he just wanted to do a good deed. He told her to just tell the truth. When Xiao left, the president called her back again. He asked Xiao a question. If she has to pay the price, how would she choose? Xiao was stunned. The chairman said he was just joking. The blonde requested his father and SRO to reconcile. It's all because of him that this tragedy happened. The chairman said someone else had taken the blame. He wouldn't choose someone with a criminal record as his successor. And there are illegitimate children outside. It's not necessary to choose him to inherit the family business. The yellow-haired man who wants to inherit the family property has to compromise. Then the chairman took him to the breeding farm. He taught the yellow-haired man to treat all the subordinates who can be bought with money as obedient dogs. And he personally caught a chicken. He made the yellow-haired man break its neck. He cooked the chicken. Watching the chicken struggling, the yellow-haired man didn't dare to strike. The president threatened him with the inheritance of the Long family. The yellow-haired man took the chicken. He was told to treat the chicken as his life path. He was just an animal. He couldn't bear the guilt of his son being beaten by an animal twice. The yellow-haired man made up his mind. He twisted the chicken's neck. Finally, the last shred of conscience Huang Mao had vanished with the killing of the chicken. Shi Lu attended the trial. Wu, the criminal police officer sitting in the audience, fell into memories. He obtained the surveillance footage. He reported to his superiors. The suspect was cleaning the courtyard at the time. He didn't do it. His superior told him to throw away his so-called sense of justice. He should think more about his family who depended on him for a living. The court ruling came out. Shi Lu was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He went to jail. The black boss sent his men to teach Shi Lu a lesson. They made him kneel down. Hearing this, Shi Lu recalled the scene where the chairman made him kneel. He laughed wildly. Will kneeling really make things easier? Thinking about the beliefs he held firmly, Silu stood up, determined to go down the path of the world. Suya visited him in prison. She saw the scars on Sila's face. She asked about the reason. Silu intentionally changed the subject and asked Suya about her recent situation. Suya said she had been accepted into college. She also confessed to him that Zhang's family would be sponsoring her, because she had called the police that day and stopped him from killing Huang Amo. The World Path chose to forgive her, not because of Xiu's words. He might have already become a murderer. Xiu asked about the World Path's future plans. The World Path answered that he saw the chairman's autobiography in the prison library. He also plans to open a small tavern. Hearing Xiu talk about his desire for revenge, the World Path thought deeply. Visiting time is up. Xiu stopped Shi Lu. She was curious why he was chasing after her. Shi Lu confessed his feelings. Xiu said she didn't like poor people. Shi Lu responded that his dream from now on was to become a rich man. After leaving, Shi Lu's mind kept flashing with images of Xiu talking about revenge. His spirit was broken, but finally he found a reason to live. 3 years later, Shi Lu was released from prison. The black boss who was released with him saw that no one was there to pick up Shi Lu. He intended to give Shi Lu a ride. Shi Lu declined the boss' kindness. In the car, the black boss felt sorry for Shi Lu. His subordinate asked about Shi Lu's identity. The black boss responded with, "A man with great courage." Shi Lu arrived at a small tavern. I asked for 2 cups. After pouring the wine, I drank it. Looking up, I saw my father sitting opposite me. I asked him about the taste of the wine. He was silent for a long time. He said it tasted bitter. Then he looked at the president's autobiography on the table. He recalled the president's words. The so-called stubborn belief is worthless. The next day, Searo saw news of Huang Amo angrily scolding and beating the staff at the station. This incident caused a significant drop in the Chang family's stock prices. The losses were severe. He then boarded the bus to Seoul. #Dao is looking for Suyo in Itaewon. A Halloween event was taking place. Searo walked through the crowd dressed in various costumes. At this time, a person wearing a terrifying rabbit mask rushed towards him. Unmasking the person, it was revealed to be Suwa. Suwa took him to a bar to reminisce about the past. Their friend, Shurgon, greeted them. Suwa asked what plans Searo had after being released from prison. Searo replied that he was still thinking about it. Before Suwa could ask another question, he changed the subject, asking her how she was doing. Suwa said that she would graduate from university next year. She would go to work at the Chang family's company. Searo nodded awkwardly in agreement. He said he wanted to open a store in Itaewon. But the rent in Itaewon is 200 million won a month. Suwa didn't recommend him to start a business there. She asked about his opening date. Searo answered in a serious manner. 7 years later, Suwa sprayed a mouthful of old liquor on his face. To save more money, Shioro decided to go to sea. After all, a person with a criminal record has limited options. Bringing up the huge insurance money from his dad's death and the money from selling the store. This is the money his father exchanged his life for. It has to be used wisely. Shioro and Sueva celebrated Halloween with everyone. Seeing Sueva's happy smile beside him. Since his father's death, Shioro had his first break from the whirlpool of deep sorrow and vengeful emotions. Being with his first love. It was the perfect day before embarking on a long journey. Saru carried the drunk Suwa home on his back. Along the way, Suwa kept apologizing for going to work at Jang's house. Saru believed she was also trying to live her own life. She shouldn't be blamed. When they arrived at the doorstep, Suwa hesitated and asked if he wanted to stay the night. The shy Saru declined. He thought that he hadn't become a rich man yet. Zui turned and left. She saw the path that Shirlu was leaving on. She told him to take care of himself. The next day, Shirlu boarded a freighter. He headed to a faraway place. 7 years later, in Changjia, director Zui introduced Changjia's latest evil bar concept. She didn't care even if others were ruined. I wish I was the most promising. In this unfair world. Don't force me to be a good person. The blonde sneered. Guests won't be interested in this topic. Showa responded. Because humans are evil from birth. Changjia, the executive, pulled Showa away. He asked her privately if she had decided which side she was on. Zui let out a chuckle. She was indicating that she still needed to continue learning from her. Avoiding a direct answer. Afterward, Zui drove to Itaewon. She passed by a store that was under renovation. She was called out. She turned her head and saw Cello standing on a ladder, gazing at Cello in front of her, remembering the words he had spoken 7 years ago about opening a shop. In Itaewon, where the average rent is 200 million won, he opened a small bar called Sweet Night. At the age of 22, Esiro's words sounded like nonsense. But to him, it was only natural. The previous episode told how Esiro spent 7 years opening a small bar called Sweet Night in Itaewon. Besides the owner, Esiro, there was also a waiter, Scar, and a chef, Hyen Ri. Everyone is doing the physiotherapy broadcasting gymnastics to warm up before the opening, preparing to welcome the arrival of the guests. Longjiao High School. 3 girls are bullying a classmate. The leading girl, the hall manager's daughter, ran over and took the pen on Yi Rui's desk. Yi Rui looked up and took out her mobile phone to record a video of the 3 girls bullying their classmate. 2608 was posted online. As soon as it was uploaded, the video went viral. Public opinion overwhelmingly criticizes the hall director's daughter. The female lead, Zhao Yi Rui, a popular blogger with 760,000 followers on SNS, transferred from New York. She excels in both sports and academics. She is also multi-talented. GT Dun, her IQ is as high as 160. Get Dun.19341931. Her IQ is as high as 160. Of course, she also has an antisocial personality. Evening. Pu Guang Examination Institute. The hall director's wife stormed in to find Irene. After confirming she was the uploader, she slapped her with a backhand. Irene turned to ask Chang Genshio next to her if he had captured the crime scene. Receiving a positive answer, she replied to the wife. Her daughter bullied her classmates and was so arrogant. It's really a case of the top beam being crooked, so the bottom one is also crooked. Upon hearing this sentence, the wife became even more furious. She poked her chest, but was slapped away. She told the wife that when her daughter goes to college, gets a job, and gets married, she will send the videos to her teachers one by one. The boss and the future mother-in-law. The wife was so angry that she raised her hand to slap her. But she was stopped by a passerby named Shirlu. Yi Rui saw this. What a great opportunity. He slapped the wife and turned to leave. He said to Shirlu, who was standing nearby, "Mind your own business." Shirlu ran to stop Irue, who was about to get into a taxi. "She shouldn't have hit anyone just like that," Ari said. "You don't understand. She killed me." Hearing this, Sheru loosened his grip on Iri's hand. Iri, who successfully got in the car, rolled down the window. She said to Sheru, "I'm just kidding you. Are you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad?" Back to the Sweet Knight's world. "It makes me so angry that it hurts my liver." Complain to the Scar and Shenli beside me that there are such people. Chang family. Neither of them was optimistic. Then he asked the yellow-haired guy about the branch's business situation. But he had no idea. The father told the yellow-haired guy the specific data while walking over. He tore up the yellow-haired guy's plan. He slapped the yellow-haired guy in the face in front of everyone. He called him stupid like a donkey. He finally gave the Itaewon branch to Suo. Pukwang Exam Academy. Genshio was brushing through Irene's social media. 297 saw her location. He immediately rushed over. On the other side, Sioro, who was riding the subway, looked at the Chang'a Group advertisement on the wall. He reminisced about the chairman's words in prison. He made a silent resolution. Back at Sweet Night, Sioro received a package from his online shopping. He opened it, ready to go all out. Genshio found Ire. Ire on the bridge sighed, "Being alive is such a drag. Let's go for a ride," she said. The two got on their beloved motorcycle. They headed towards Itaewon. They arrived in a daze. Just then, a child darted out from the side of the road. Genshio slammed on the brakes. Success stopped. But because of inertia, Irue shot out of the back seat. Spouting roots in mid-air, the mascot handing out flyers rushed over, successfully catching Irue falling from the sky. It turned out to be Searo. Searo also recognized Irue, who wanted him. Genshio went up to ask about Irue's injuries. He was knocked to the ground by a headbutt. Searo pointed at Irai behind him. He was so angry that he couldn't catch his breath. He rolled his eyes and fell to the ground. Changjie. The chairman asked Sua why she hadn't told him about Searo opening a store. Sua thought Searo's little shop was not worth the chairman's attention. The chairman then pointed at Sua. If the same situation happened 10 years ago, what will she do? Then she said insincerely again, "I just asked casually, don't mind." Zui was silent for a moment. Responded that she was a member of the Chang family. Woke up in the hospital. Opened her eyes and saw Ire. Got up and hurriedly looked for her doll's costume. Unfortunately, it was damaged. Rucho had already thrown it away. Sioro felt very sorry. He turned his head and saw the flyer in his bag. Putting on his shoes, he was going to continue distributing them. Era mocked him, saying his promotional method was too old-fashioned. Sho Root hurriedly explained that she had social anxiety. Sioro thanked them. He gave them a flyer when he left. Shoi looked at the flyer in her hand. The scene of the world asking him humbly for advice on how to publicize. He tore up the flyer in his hand. He threw it out in a shower of flowers. 10 yuan for Ire's childhood. During the competition. For victory. He pushed the student in front of him down. He won the championship. The students around him pointed at her. Mom came over to comfort her and praised her for coming in first. It was unexpected. Iri said disdainfully, "You just want to use me to make up for your mediocre life." At night, they came to the Long family restaurant. Genshio wanted to go to another place. Iri walked straight into the shop. Genshio had no choice. Only follow. The waitress, Zui, in the store saw the three people. She came over to check their IDs. She asked about Yaire's name. Genshio quickly chimed in. Unfortunately, Yair was using a fake ID. Zui told them to come back for drinks after graduation. She chased the three away. She saw Tianai. Eri suggested trying their luck again. Lu saw a few people. He told Dao Bie to entertain them. He went out to solicit business. Dao Bie checked their IDs. He saw that the IDs were fake, made with great care. He thought about how he hadn't had a single customer since opening. He pretended not to know. He didn't expose them. Lu, who was out trying to attract customers, bumped into Showa. They chatted casually. Lu mentioned that his sweet night business wasn't doing well. Showa offered to help by taking a look at his financial statements. Lu confidently refused. He spoke eloquently about various financial analyses. Everything was under control, he claimed. Showa was surprised to hear him talk about these things, asking where he learned so much. It turned out that Lu had been studying this for the past 7 years. Even the president's autobiography was memorized. The road came to Sweet Night. Suyo found Jiansu and the three of them eating in the store, preparing to leave. Searo asked her to have beer with him tomorrow. Suyo, who left, remembered the president's words asking her to make a choice, took out her phone and dialed the reporting number. Inside the store, Ruchio's friend was bossing Scar around. Lu stood up for him. As he was leaving, he was stopped by his friend. He mocked the waiter. Scar wanted to go over and teach him a lesson. Lu pushed him back. He told his friend that his staff had the right to kick out customers like him. His friend grabbed Lu's clothes. Lu led him to the camera. His friend punched him, but the scar-faced man blocked it. He told him, "You can hit me, but you can't hit my brother." Then he punched his friend and sent him flying to the ground. He used a cool shoulder throw to knock Lu to the ground. He grabbed the hot soup from the table. He poured it on his unconscious friend's leg. His friend hurriedly apologized. Scar picked up the wine bottle next to him. He hadn't smashed it yet. Hyun-ri came over to stop him. She told Sero to fire Scar. His violent nature couldn't be changed. Hearing that he was going to be fired, Scar immediately begged Sero for forgiveness. Eri, who had been watching the whole thing, said that this guy must be crazy. At the same time, the police arrived. Several people thought it was the police who were called because of a conflict in the store. The police said someone reported that there were minors in the store. Hearing this, Lu looked at Erui behind him. The blonde-haired man received a call from the secretary. The chairman told him to go to the police station to pick up his younger brother. At the police station, they learned that the shop would be closed for 3 months. The scar-faced man was furious. He got up and argued with the police. Seoro stopped him. He asked if the policeman knew that Ayer was a minor. "It was our fault to begin with." He finished by apologizing to the police. Jiansu stood up for them. It was clearly their fault. Seoro patted his head. Because they couldn't take responsibility. He's just called a minor. Huang Mao arrived at the police station. He saw Lu. He laughed so hard he fell over. He kept provoking Lu. He also asked the police to let him off the hook. The police obediently said no problem. Lu closed the laptop lid. He said his dream was to be a policeman. Because of a prior record, it was abandoned. The police are supposed to uphold the law. Justice. That is the police that I dream of and respect. Yelling at Huang Mao is like an onion. Why can one sentence be used to abuse public power? After saying that, he left. Eri chased after him, asking him if he's crazy. It was clear that the shutdown could have been avoided. She was mocking his cheap self-esteem. Business people need to know when to swallow their pride. The world was telling her, "Don't judge if you don't understand." Eri said, "Even though I don't understand, just endure this one time." Seru countered, "Endure this one time. This final time. Just endure it. Again and again. Although things are good right now. But those concessions will change people. Just close down and reopen. That's nothing." The yellow-haired guy came out to continue mocking. Because of his own reasons. Shirlu was expelled from school, imprisoned, and his father died. What a pathetic life ruined. He rubbed his head hard against Esiro's chest. Hit me. Hit me. Esiro clenched his fist. The yellow-haired man said he had finally learned to endure. Esiro grabbed his hand. For 9 years, he had endured very well, and he would continue to endure for the next 6 years. He waited for the statute of limitations to expire. He planned for 15 years. He'll see. He turned and walked away. Arai watched Sororo's back thoughtfully. Next, Arai too, who was punished by running. Talking about Sororo. Jensei was puzzled why Sororo never got angry. Irue thought that he was just an old fogey living in his own world. When writing the letter of repentance, he recalled Genshou's words. Silently, he drew the world's path on the paper. In the sweet night, the scarred man kept hitting the table. He deeply regretted his reckless behavior. Time went back 8 years. When he first entered prison, Li Bie went to see the black boss. The boss told Shirlu, who was reading a book, to take care of him. When they were released for exercise in the prison, Scar asked who Shirlu was. How dare he be so rude to the boss? The boss smiled. He told Scar not to mess with Shirlu. He's not one of us. He's a madman. Scar walked toward Shirlu, who was reading a book. He was mocked for being useless in reading. He has a criminal record. No one is willing to hire him. Shirlu said that how could he know if he didn't try? When Shirlu started to preach, Dao Bie lifted Shirlu up. Who do you think you are? You are also a criminal with a ruined life. He knocked Shirlu down with a punch. He was still not satisfied and continued to kick and curse. Even if he gets out of prison, he can only do hard labor on long-distance fishing boats. Shirlu stands up and wipes the blood from his mouth. He roars. My life is just beginning, even if it's hard labor. I am not afraid of anything. Time flies. The scarred man gets out of prison. Shirlu is indeed doing hard labor. But the scarred man is still wasting his time at the internet cafe. Day after day. 7 years have passed. Seru has opened a shop in Itaewon. The black boss came with a group of younger brothers to show their support. Scar was stunned when he saw Seru. Everyone's time is fair. Compared to Scar, Seru's time has been more profound. After that, Scar often goes to Sweet Night to drink. He expresses that he is a big fan of Esiro. He envies Esiro's ability to do whatever he wants. Seiro and Hyenri look at Scar, who is constantly hitting himself. They take him to a KTV. The karaoke king Esiro seems completely unaffected by the closure. He jumps around happily. Hyenri gives Scar ointment. She tells him to be careful next time. When drinking, Scar kept apologizing. The world made him shut up. Otherwise, he would be fired. Then suggested going to the karaoke room for the next round. He was disliked by the two. Chong family. Chong family's subordinates advised the managing director to prepare to take over the presidency in a few years. After all, the president is getting old. The yellow-haired one is not up to par again. He keeps professing his loyalty. Alas, the chief executive director flatly refused both of them. He told them to stop mentioning the matter. Evening. Itaewon New Year's celebration. Eri and the others counted down together. Afterwards, finally entered the restaurant using my own ID. 20-year-old Eri. Got into university. But I couldn't feel excited. I drank with my classmates because I wanted to get something out of them. At this time, Gensha's friend, a guy who deserves a punch, came over and invited a few of them to eat together. On the other side, Genshu, who was working part-time at the restaurant, overheard the boss talking. She wanted to find an excuse to force him to resign. Ganshio left helplessly. She went back to Pugwang Examination Institute. Ganshio sent a message to invite Yair to go out and play. She waited for a long time, but there was no response. The secretary in the car beside her explained the situation to the president. Genshio had been living in a 5-square-meter examination institute. The rent was 300,000 yuan. Yair, who was invited to dinner, looking at the 3 people across from her, feeling inexplicably agitated. A silly fool lacking love, a rutting hooligan, and an idiot, remembering the scene of Shirlu saving her. Since seeing Shirlu, Irue has lost interest in everything. She got up and left. The annoying guy chased after her. He wanted Irene to stay and play with them for a while longer. Irene was furious with the annoying guy. She utterly disliked people like him. The annoying guy pulled her back as she was trying to leave. He expressed his intention of not having any thoughts, but he wanted to eat and drink for free. Irene took out money and threw it on the annoying guy's chest. She turned and left. Unbeknownst to her, he slapped her in the face halfway through. Iri threw her over her shoulder. Then she kicked her twice. She hurriedly ran away. Shirluo and Zui were drinking in a bar. Zui mentioned how Shirluo had liked her since childhood. Shirluo expressed that he still liked her now. Zui thought he had never clearly confessed his feelings. Could he have been keeping her as a spare tire? The world's idea is to wait until you become a rich person to confess. To make Sueva an unemployed vagrant. Sueva looked at Seru, saying she would cheer him on. The beating man chased Arii to the men's restroom, but saw Seru in the process of relieving himself. Then the beating man chased Arii, starting to get physical. Seru on the side watched the two as if it had nothing to do with him. Era called out to Seru, who was about to leave. Seru turned around and looked at her swollen cheek. He asked her if he was interfering too much by getting involved. Era recalled the past. She asked him for help. Seru pulled Era away. He shook off the man who was beating her. The man retaliated, but Seru punched him and he fell down. Era, standing beside him, gazed at the heroic Seru with love in her eyes. After beating him up, he called out to Zui, who was standing at the door. The 3 of them ran away as fast as they could. Irue looked at Shirlu, who was beside him. It was as if he had found the meaning of life. After they stopped running, Zui scolded Shirlu for being a fool. She blamed him for running around to save Irue. Shirlu was stunned and asked Zui how she knew Irue. Zui recalled seeing Irue at Sweet Night. She lied and said she didn't know him. She wanted to leave with Esero. Unexpectedly, the 3 of them ended up at a coffee shop. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Eri asked about their relationship. Suyo said they were just friends. But Esero likes her. She deliberately turned her head and asked Esero. It's been 10 years, hasn't it? The awkward Esero hurriedly went to get coffee. Hyoe threatened Iri. Seiro is not her type. Moreover, Sweet Night was closed because of Iri. Iri remembered what Hyoe said to Esero just now. With high intelligence, she analyzed that. Hyoe reported that she was a minor. Hearing this, Hyoe did not deny it. Seiro came back and obviously felt the atmosphere was wrong. It was unexpected that Zui directly revealed herself as the whistleblower. Would she Lulu still like her, knowing she is such a person? Saint Mother Lu said he would. Zui must have her reasons for doing this. He was just a little disappointed, hearing Shilulu say that Zui got up and left. On the other side, Yair mentioned Saint Mother Lu. Betrayed by a friend of 10 years. Wouldn't anyone get angry? Holy Mother Road is very understanding. After all, everyone works for a living. Everyone has their own difficult circumstances. Sweet Night inside. Scar invited Xianli to take a steam bath together. Let him help scrub his back. Xianli refused with a look of disgust. Scar looked at him with a "I understand" expression. Represents size is not everything. Xianli picked up a rag and wiped it up. Eri complained about Sweet Night's various problems and gave reasonable solutions. Shirlu patted her head, praised her for being awesome. Shy Eri took a sip of wine, said this wine is so sweet. Shirlu talked about his father's words. because today left a deep impression on her. Then Irie asked why the store was called Sweet Night. Searo answered, because his life had a little bitterness. Eddie just hoped that he could live a sweeter life in the future. He finished speaking and got up to leave, but he fell to the ground because he was drunk. Looking at Searo, who had fallen to the ground, Irie secretly resolved to make his life as sweet as honey. He raised his head from the world. Piqué. He kissed her. The next day, Irie asked her mother what would happen if she fell in love with someone. She was interrupted before she could finish. Her mother firmly refused to allow her to ruin her life for love. Irie said her mother was so selfish. That evening, she came to the bridge. Get ready to flip a coin, to decide whether to follow your heart, or become the kind of person your mom hopes you'll be. Unexpectedly, the coin fell straight into the water. Irie knew what to do. She ran towards Sweet Night, looking at Shirley, who just came out. She understood her heart. She told Shirley that she wanted to work at the tavern, and will help him fulfill his wish. Looking at the world in front of him, Irie secretly vowed to make him an extraordinary man. Instead of being a mediocre person, Irie wanted to work under Searo, but was rejected. Turned out that Genshio had applied for the job before her. Irie wondered why Genshio had applied for the job. Genshio looked at Searo, lost in memories, 11 years ago, because he was an illegitimate child. His elder brother, Huang Mao, would vent his anger on him whenever he had the chance.